shirt. That nigga was playing with y'all. After you got mad, he stopped playing. He didn't want to hurt your feelings.
I did not get...
Acknowledge that he didn't want to hurt your feelings. Just acknowledge that, yo. You didn't want to hurt my feelings.
I just asked him that. He said no.
Mark, that's not true, Mark. I heard
Wait, you asked him that and he said
Mark,
no? You said no?
He has an argument hurt my feelings? That mean you hurt my feelings up here before?
I hurt your feelings all the time up here.
You don't hurt my feelings never, you bitch ass nigga. Ain't nigga up here hurt my feelings.
Welcome back. If you've been following the drama surrounding the Joe Budden podcast and its rotating cast of co-hosts, then this one is going to hit different, because today we're breaking down exactly how the tension between Marc and the rest of the group really started, and why Ish is sitting right at the center of all of it. Here's what a lot of people are missing. Marc isn't the only piece of this puzzle. Flip wouldn't keep coming at Marc the way he does if Ish wasn't consistently co-signing Marc's behavior in the first place. Remove Ish's approval from the equation, and Flip probably wouldn't give Marc a second thought. And the same logic applies to Joe. Joe wouldn't keep taking shots at Marc if he hadn't already picked up on the dynamic between Ish and Marc, a relationship that, to everyone watching, seems closer than either of them lets on. But to understand where this all went wrong, you have to go back to the beginning. And the beginning, according to those who've been paying attention, was the flat earth moment. That was ground zero. That was the first time the intellectual versus the uninformed dynamic entered the room. And it didn't come from Flip, it came from Ish. Now, instead of Ish standing on his own and answering for himself when the topic came up, he turned to Marc, the very person being called out, looking for validation. And of course, Marc wasn't going to give a straight answer, because playing into the ambiguity was exactly what the moment called for. And this gets to something deeper. You don't have to verbally tell someone they've offended you for them to feel it. When Mona spoke about B. She made the point that everyone in that room felt the same tension she did. She was just the only one willing to say it out loud. The audience watching at home can feel tension through a screen. Imagine what it's like being in that room. Now here's where it gets interesting. If you've been watching the recent Patreon episodes closely, you've probably noticed something. There are a lot of cuts, more than usual. These aren't random edits. Something is being said, something is getting heated, and then the footage jumps, and everyone reappears on screen acting like nothing happened. But it's visible. The energy is there. What's happening is that Ish is slowly becoming the focal point of everyone's frustration, and here's why. The same way people say the group looks to Marc for a certain kind of energy, that's exactly how the rest of the room, with the exception of Ice and Parks, looks to Ish. He sets the tone whether he realizes it or not. So when people start questioning why he seems to be seeking Marc's approval, Ish is genuinely confused. But what he might not be seeing clearly is that it goes both ways. Marc is seeking Ish's approval just as much. That mutual validation is what keeps the cycle going. And in Joe's view, all roads lead back to one person. In his eyes, there's a main character in this story, and the rewind moment involving Mona only makes that clearer. That full breakdown is a conversation for another time, because there's a lot more to unpack there than fits into this episode. Now, Ish sees himself as the main character, but here's the thing, so does everyone else in that room. And when the person you look up to starts visibly looking up to someone else, one of two things happens. You either embrace that person because they clearly have something your role model admires, or you resent them because in your eyes, they pulled your person's attention away from where it belongs. That's exactly what's playing out here. And instead of anyone extending goodwill toward Marc, at least one person made his position crystal clear. Flip said it directly. He wants nothing to do with Marc. No ambiguity, no softening, just straight up. And that's when it clicked. There's another blow-up coming, and this time it's between Joe and Ish. Not because the content is falling apart, but because in the middle of these arguments, Joe keeps stepping in. He's going to keep chiming in because of the specific dynamic he has with Ish. But eventually, Ish is going to reach a breaking point and start questioning why Joe always has something to add. That friction is building, slowly, but it's building. Now that we're looking at what appears to be an Ish and Marc versus Joe and Flip situation forming, there are a few observations worth calling out individually. Ice, at some point, you're going to have to choose a side. Staying neutral sounds safe, but if you keep laughing along with everyone without committing, all four of them will eventually redirect their energy toward you. That's just how group dynamics work. Parks, this one's straightforward. Flip does not mess with you. That much is obvious, and from what's visible on screen, the feeling appears mutual. A blow-up between the two of you seems inevitable. But before it gets to that point, don't let it reach a place where Joe feels he has to choose between you. And if you haven't watched back the moment where you raised your voice at Flip about the internet situation, watch Joe's face, watch his body language. Even if he agreed with every word you said, he clearly did not appreciate the way you delivered it toward Flip. That moment matters more than it might seem. Stay neutral in this four-way conflict, or you will end up caught in the middle of it. And then there's Mona. At this point, the question is whether she's going to be a consistent presence at all. Someone mentioned in a behind-the-scenes clip that she'd only be appearing on main episodes going forward. That raised eyebrows, but now she's not even showing up to those consistently. The Charlemagne event explains one absence, but here's where it gets complicated. Ish is scheduled on Tuesdays and Fridays at the JBP.
Have a well-documented tension between them. So showing up to a 3-day Charlemagne event and choosing to attend on a Friday, a day she's supposed to be at the JBP, that's a conflict of interest worth noticing. Mona isn't being pushed out, she's quietly weighing her options. That's a very different story than what some people in the audience are assuming. And finally, Marc. Pay attention to the shift in his behavior. The jokes are coming less frequently now, unless they're aimed directly at Flip. That's not a coincidence. He knows exactly what's happening around him, and he's adjusting accordingly. Here's the thing about a strategy based around slowly waking people up to what's happening. Eventually, people catch on, and once they do, they start picking sides. Marc understands this, which is why there's a visible urgency to get ahead of it before the momentum shifts too far. But here's something worth pointing out. When Ish is making accusations or stirring the pot, notice what Marc isn't doing. He's not attacking Ish personally. He's not making it about hurt feelings. He's not going on emotional tangents. He keeps it focused. And yet, that same Marc will turn around and tear into Flip, belittling him, talking down to him, going at him in ways that show zero restraint, no filter, no boundaries. And that stands in direct contradiction to something Marc consistently preaches: being mindful of how you speak about people publicly, being careful with your words, understanding that what you put out on the internet has consequences because you never know who's listening. He's said it multiple times in different ways, but when it comes to Flip, none of that applies. Whether that's a conflict of interest or straight-up hypocrisy is up for debate, but Flip has clearly noticed it, and that blow-up is coming. As this divide grows, Joe and the others are going to find themselves forced into a position. Sides are already being chosen, teams are already forming quietly. And the people on the couch who've been staying neutral, they won't have that option for much longer. If this doesn't get addressed internally, and if the comment sections keep adding fuel to the fire, and Joe keeps energizing everyone around him, this thing is going to spiral past the point of easy correction. And look, skeptics are welcome. If you think this is all speculation or just content for content's sake, that's fair. But there's only so long people can manage ongoing tension in a professional environment before something shifts. And to be clear, this isn't about anyone quitting or getting fired. That conversation hasn't come up in a long time, and it's not coming up now. What's coming is simpler than that. The dynamics on this podcast are going to change. That's the only point being made here. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Genuinely curious where everyone stands on this one. If the video was worth your time, leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. For those already here, you already know how this goes. One last thing. The JBP Rewind with Mona and Ish has been watched, and there's a lot to unpack from that. Those thoughts are going on Patreon, so look out for that. And the support over there has been incredible. It's being noticed and genuinely appreciated. And quietly, there is a reason Marc directed that Patreon question to the rest of the cast. That detail isn't being glossed over, but that's a conversation for another time. Until next time.